There you were, excited for a girl's sleepover with your bestie, sleeping bag slung over your shoulder, your favorite snacks tucked in your bag. The crisp evening air still clung to your hair as you rang the doorbell. Your bestie flung the door open and pulled you into a warm hug. "I've missed you," she exclaimed. You smiled, ready for a night of movies, popcorn, and late-night secrets. But over her shoulder, your smile faltered. In the kitchen, leaning casually against the counter, was someone you hadn't seen in years. Taller, broader, somehow even more magnetic than in your memories. His eyes caught yours instantly. "Hey," he said, voice low and familiar, just enough to make your stomach twist. "Hi," you replied, a little too quickly, forcing a smile. You didn't mention the sudden churn of emotions in your chest, the nostalgia, the fluttering nerves, and the anger you weren't ready to show. He tilted his head, watching you like he could read your mind. "You look different," he said slowly. "Good different." You crossed your arms. "Yeah, well, it's been a while." Your tone was neutral, almost chilly, but he caught the sharp edge beneath it immediately. "You don't sound thrilled to see me," he teased, stepping a little closer. His smirk was just as infuriating as it was familiar. "I'm fine," you said shortly, keeping your voice steady. "Really?" His grin widened and he leaned casually against the counter closer to you. Fine, huh?" You blinked, caught off guard. That's not it." You looked away, pretending to examine the countertop, but your pulse betrayed you. He chuckled softly, clearly amused by your reaction. "Maybe not, but I can feel it." His voice dropped a little lower, teasing. "Every sharp edge in your tone, every little pause. You're angry. I like it." You turned your gaze back to him, eyes narrowed. "I'm not angry. You're lying," he whispered, stepping even closer. The faint scent of him wood, a trace of cologne, made your chest tighten. "But that's okay. I can wait for you to tell me why." Your cheeks warmed, but you refused to smile. "Don't get used to this," you muttered, trying to sound annoyed even as your heart raced. He leaned against the counter again opposite from you, crossing his arms, teasing. "Oh, don't worry. I'm not planning to, but I'm planning to make you talk." You rolled your eyes, trying to keep your distance, but the playful glint in his eyes made your defenses wobble. "Come on, stop fighting," Mia said, tugging gently on my sleeve before grabbing my hand and leading me toward the couch, away from Taehyung. I tried to tear my gaze away from him, but it clung stubbornly, following his every movement as he continued his business in the kitchen. His presence was magnetic, impossible to ignore. "Hey, Earth to YN," Mia snapped, nudging me, and finally pulled me out of my daze. I blinked, realizing I had been staring. I turned my head back toward Mia, cheeks burning just as I heard Taehyung scoff from the kitchen. He probably caught every bit of Mia yelling, and heat rushed to my face in embarrassment. My stomach flipped, and I couldn't help but wish the ground would swallow me whole. She probably had her attention on something else. Or should I say someone? Taehyung called from the kitchen without even turning around, his voice teasing, deliberate. "Can you stop meddling and focus on the dishes?" Mia shot back, standing up for me. Her tone was protective, sharp. She knew exactly what had happened between us, how he'd left without a word, and shattered my heart in the process. I shifted uncomfortably on the couch, cheeks burning, torn between wanting to disappear under the cushions and wanting to throw something at him for being so infuriatingly. I tried to focus on why I'd come here in the first place: fun with Mia, a good comedy movie, and maybe some much-needed laughter. Taehyung had retreated to his room, and though I tried to concentrate on the screen, My eyes kept flicking toward his bedroom door, half hoping it would swing open again. Did he fall asleep? I wondered, heart unexpectedly skipping a beat at the thought of him still there. So close yet out of reach. Mia sighed, her eyes narrowing slightly as she followed mine toward his door. You still love him, don't you? She asked softly. I nodded, unable to hide it. Should I call him to come sit with us? She offered, a teasing lilt in her voice. I shook my head firmly. No. Even though I still love him, I'm still angry at him. Okay, Mia shrugged, lifting her shoulders before sinking back into the couch. After demolishing a whole bucket of snacks and a few bottles of soda, the movie finally ended. It was only 9 p.m, and still no sign of Taehyung. A mix of annoyance and ache settled in my chest. I wanted to be near him, to feel his presence, to hear his voice, but I couldn't give in so easily. Not yet. What should we do now? I asked Mia, glancing around the room. Wait, I have something to show you, she said, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Me and my friends from college made a vlog about our project. Can you tell me what you think of it? I nodded immediately. I was always happy to help my best friend. She set her phone on the table and pressed play, and I leaned in, determined to give her an honest review. I was so focused on the screen that I didn't notice Taehyung quietly emerging from his room, moving past the living room, and disappearing into the bathroom. Whoa, this is so good, I exclaimed, wobbling a little in excitement. You think so? Mia replied, a smile tugging at her lips. Yes, I beamed back. These transitions are so nicely done. Mia's eyebrows furrowed playfully. You have to pee, right? I felt a rush of relief that she noticed, thankful she wasn't annoyed at me for leaving mid-review. Yeah, just a sec, I said, standing quickly and practically running toward the bathroom. I opened the door, glanced inside, and closed it again without stepping in. But the moment I turned around, my eyes went wide. Taehyung was there, bare-chested, wearing only sweatpants, his hair slightly damp, a lazy smirk playing at his lips. Heat shot to my cheeks, my heart stuttering. I wanted to look away, but my gaze was glued to him, and suddenly the distance between annoyance and attraction felt impossibly small. You've got some nerve, barging in without knocking, he said, smirking as he hung his towel back on the rack. You should learn how to lock your door, I shot back, trying to sound confident, but my voice wavered slightly as a sharp pang hit my stomach. I needed to go to the bathroom badly, but the thought of telling Taehyung was mortifying. My cheeks burned, and I tried to subtly shift my weight, hoping he wouldn't notice the growing urgency. Just admit it, you tried to see me naked, you little pervert, he teased, stepping closer. Panic shot through me. I squeezed my eyes shut, and suddenly the air around me seemed to heat up literally. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, close enough to make my heartbeat hammer in my chest. When I opened my eyes just a crack, he was impossibly close. Before I could react, he pressed me against the wall, his hands framing my body on either side as he leaned in. His bare chest was nearly brushing my face, radiating warmth that made me squirm, my eyes instinctively shutting again. Taehyung chuckled low, that familiar, infuriating sound. You came here to look, and now you act all shy. His hand lifted my chin gently, tilting my face up. I opened my eyes just slightly, enough to see him leaning down, his lips impossibly close. So close that there wasn't even room for a finger between us. I've missed you, he whispered, and I felt his warm breath glide over my lips, sending shivers straight down my spine. For some reason, I was ready to feel his lips on mine. I slightly pouted. Just a tiny bit, but it was enough for him to notice. I heard his quiet chuckle and my cheeks flamed immediately. Then suddenly, a rush of cold air swept over me. I opened my eyes and he was gone. Just like that, he had walked away, leaving me alone and flustered. I felt ridiculously stupid for letting him toy with me like that. With a huff, I closed the bathroom door, finally able to release myself and my simmering frustration alone. Mia and I had an absolute blast gossiping, playing silly games and laughing until our sides hurt at funny videos. The room was filled with warmth, laughter, and the comfort of our friendship. And Taehyung, well, he had disappeared back into his chambers, leaving just the memory of his teasing grin lingering in my mind. It was already past midnight when Mia and I finally headed to her room to sleep. The room was dimly lit, cozy, and smelled faintly of her lavender-scented candle. I grabbed my sleeping bag and laid it out on the floor since her bed was too small to hold us both, curling up with a soft sigh. For some reason, sleep wouldn't come. Maybe it was because I knew Taehyung was just next door, his presence lingering in my mind. I turned and tossed in my sleeping bag, frustration growing with every passing minute. Finally, I gave up and decided to get up, maybe watch a little more TV until exhaustion finally claimed me. Wrapped in a soft blanket with a steaming cup of cocoa I'd made myself, I settled in front of the TV, keeping the volume low. I came to Mia's house often enough that it felt like a second home. I knew exactly where everything was, from the mugs in the kitchen to the coziest corner of her living room. I curled deeper into the blanket, the warmth of the cocoa and the soft glow of the TV lulling me towards sleep. My eyelids grew heavy, my breathing slowed, and the room felt peaceful, safe, even with Mia asleep in the next room. What I didn't know was that Taehyung hadn't slept either. Feeling thirsty, he quietly stepped out of his room, careful not to wake anyone, and headed for the kitchen. On his way, he paused when he saw me cozily wrapped in a blanket on the couch, half dozing with the soft flicker of the TV highlighting the curve of my face. For a moment, he just watched, a faint smile tugging at his lips. The sight of me so vulnerable yet peaceful made his chest tighten. He didn't want to disturb me, but he couldn't look away. Sleep finally claimed me, my eyelids heavy and body relaxed under the blanket. Taehyung saw his chance. The way I had curled up on the couch so small, so peaceful made his chest tighten. He couldn't help himself. Quietly he moved closer, lowering himself to sit on the couch in front of me. One arm rested casually on the back of the couch, supporting him as he leaned slightly toward me, careful not to startle me. The flicker of the TV light caught his face, and he just watched me for a moment, caught between amusement and something softer, something that made his fingers twitch to brush a strand of hair from my face. The stray of hair tickled the tip of my nose as he gently brushed it away. I scrunched my nose reflexively, and he let out a quiet, amused giggle. Then his expression shifted, suddenly serious. He leaned a little closer, eyes soft and intense. "I'm sorry I left you like this," Taehyung confessed, his voice low and sincere. "I know it isn't an excuse, but I couldn't say goodbye back then." He leaned in and stole a soft, fleeting kiss. Before pulling away, he smiled gently, the kind of smile that made your chest ache in a good way. Then he stood and moved to the other end of the couch, content to watch me sleep. Eventually, sleep claimed him too, his steady breathing filling the quiet room. A few hours later, I woke up, stretching slightly, and realized my legs were resting on something warm and slightly firm. Looking up, my eyes widened. Taehyung was sitting there, asleep, leaning back with one arm propped on the armrest. My legs were draped across his lap, and his hand rested lightly on them, holding them as if he didn't want me to move. For a moment, neither of us stirred. The quiet intimacy of the scene, the warmth, the closeness, the soft rhythm of his breathing, made my heart pound in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. I carefully slid his hand off my legs, repositioning myself so I was kneeling on the couch. Slowly, deliberately, I traced my fingertips over the prominent vein on his neck, then lightly poked at the little beauty marks on his cheek and nose. A small smile tugged at my lips as he stirred slightly. So tempting and impossibly still. I didn't want to disturb him further, so I quietly began to get up. But the moment my foot touched the floor, a sudden force yanked me back. "Taehyung," I whispered, startled by the sudden attack. "You're seducing me, teasing me, and then you decide to walk away," he murmured, his voice low, teasing and thick with desire. Before I could react, I found myself back in his lap. His arm curled tightly around my waist, holding me close, while his other hand still lightly gripped my wrist. His eyes were half-lidded, seductive and intense, and I felt my pulse race uncontrollably. His grip around my wrist softened, shifting into something else, something far more dangerous. His fingers slid between mine, locking our hands together as if he'd waited years to do it. "You can't start something you can't even finish," Taehyung teased, his voice dripping with heat. Before I could snap back, his lips brushed against my neck, slow, warm, deliberate. A shiver ran through me, and I hated how my body reacted before my brain could catch up. I felt my pulse racing, the familiar warmth pooling in my stomach. But reality snapped at me. I was still mad, still hurt, still carrying the weight of him leaving without a word. I squirmed in his lap, trying to pull my hand from his. "Let me go," I said, breath shaky but determined. "I'm still mad at you." Taehyung paused, but only for a second, because he knew me. He always did. He knew the difference between me truly wanting distance and me fighting my own heart. He leaned forward again, lips grazing the shell of my ear, his breath warm enough to make my knees weak even though I wasn't standing. "I know you still have feelings for me," he whispered, voice deep, confident, devastating. "And it's mutual." Before I could argue, he gently nibbled my earlobe. A soft bite, barely there, but enough to make my whole body melt against him. A frustrated whimper slipped out before I could stop it, and his grip around my waist tightened in response, holding me securely in his lap as if he feared I'd float away. I hated that he could make me feel like this. I hated that he knew exactly how to undo me. But more than anything, I hated how much I wanted him despite everything. "No. Stop." I managed to push against his chest, the heat of him only making my panic stronger. I squirmed again, heart racing for all the wrong reasons. "I can't do this, Taehyung, I can't. Eventually you'll leave again. And I can't go through that again." I slipped off his lap, feet hitting the floor, and took a shaky step away. My throat tightened, tears burning the corners of my eyes. But before I could take another breath, his hand wrapped around mine. Firm, desperate, he spun me around effortlessly, and before I could protest, his hand slid to my thighs. He lifted me, careful but determined, and set me on the edge of the dining table. My breath caught. I wasn't trapped because he forced me there. I was trapped because part of me didn't want to run. He stood between my knees, close enough that his warmth softened my anger, his arms circling around my waist to steady me. "I'm not going anywhere anymore," he said, voice low but full of conviction. "I'm here to stay. For good this time. I missed you too much. I came back because of you." My chest tightened painfully, and a tear slid down my cheek before I could stop it. "You think this makes everything okay?" I whispered, the words trembling. "I could handle you leaving to chase your dreams, Tae. I could accept that. But what I couldn't handle was you disappearing without a word. Like I meant nothing." My voice cracked on the last part, and suddenly my anger didn't feel sharp anymore. It felt like years of hurt folding in on itself. His expression changed instantly. The playfulness, the teasing, gone. Now he looked wrecked. Guilty. Soft. Lion. He breathed, his thumb brushing my cheek gently, catching the tear before it fell further. You never meant nothing. You were the hardest part to leave. I just couldn't say goodbye to you, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Because my heart couldn't handle it. I know it was selfish, and if I could turn back time, I would do it differently. No, actually, I wouldn't even leave. I regret it so much. Before I could respond, he pulled me into a tight hug, his arms wrapping around me like he never wanted to let go. The warmth of his body, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, and the sincerity in his embrace made all the anger, all the hurt, start to melt away. I buried my face against his chest, letting the tears flow freely this time. His presence was comforting, safe, and for the first time in years I felt like maybe, just maybe, everything could be okay again. I didn't have the strength anymore to hold on to anger or hate toward him. Slowly I pushed him just enough to pull back from his chest. He looked at me, confusion flickering across his features. I smiled softly, letting my arms wrap around his neck. Before he could speak, I pressed my lips gently to his. At first he froze, surprised by the sudden affection. But then, he melted into it, leaning closer, his own arms circling me, as if he had been waiting for this moment just as much as I had. He lifted me up by my thighs again, bringing me level with him, so kissing him would feel natural and effortless. He guided us gently toward the couch, and he sat down with me still in his lap, our lips never breaking contact. The kiss deepened almost instantly, warm and urgent yet soft, his hands tracing the curves of my back while mine tangled in his hair. Every touch, every sigh, seemed to erase the past, the distance, the hurt, the anger. Eventually, we pulled back just enough to breathe, but neither of us moved away. We curled up together on the couch, me resting against his chest, him holding me close in a protective, comforting embrace. Wrapped in each other's warmth, with the faint glow of the TV flickering around us, sleep slowly claimed us once more. Only this time it was peaceful, secure, and shared. Finally, we were together. The end. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.